Welcome everybody out there. We got we're here. Episode 2.
This is it.
Eric, how you feeling today? How was the week?
I was feeling great until I look at your background and I look at my background. This is I don't know. This is
I got settled in.
This isn't gonna work.
I was in a corner somewhere in this WeWork trying to figure out where to run this broadcast, and so if it looked like I was, being held hostage somewhere in the background on the first episode, I wasn't. I was just trying to figure out what, the best route. But yeah, no, look, we got set up. I got the gimbal going. I got the beautiful background, and feeling good about this second episode that we're putting together, and talking about some really, really I think informative subjects, right? I think this week we have something that a lot of people struggle with, new agents, and even I think agents that have been in the business for a while, and so today I think, we're going to be discussing the always controversial 50% commission structure, leads included, versus the higher 100% plus, no leads included models that agents can kind of work into and go. And so, yeah, I think it's a good topic. I think a lot of people find themselves in that fork in the road, right? Whether they're new agents or seasoned vets. It's always a question of, hey, which one is best for me? Where do I go? What are the benefits of one or the other? And so I think we can give a good opinion, unbiased opinion, right? Just because we're just trying to provide the information that's out there, and we see both sides of it, working with new agents and obviously on the marketing side of things. So kick it off for us. What are your thoughts? What are your initial thoughts on it? And let's get it going.
Yeah, I mean, I think right off the bat, there's not a perfect model for everybody coming in this industry, right? And I think that's what's important to understand, and I think that's what's so important about what we're doing here is, look, let's just create an open forum and and where we can discuss this and we can say, look, this might be a great fit, this may not. For me, I think first and foremost, the owners of these agencies who have set up these systems where they're fronting the money for leads is huge. When I was getting into the industry, I just, we come in, no matter our backgrounds and, working that W-2 lifestyle at companies, when you traditionally walk into a company, you're expecting them, hey, how many days do I get off? What's my, my PTO look like? Where do I get where are my leads coming from? I'm just going to wake up, I'm going to walk in the office and everything is going to be there, right? And unfortunately, that's not the way it is. However, this is probably the closest model to where maybe most of those people who have those expectations are probably going to feel very comfortable coming into, right? And we see it in the groups, in these Facebook groups all the time. It's like, okay, hey, I just got licensed. Where do I, who's going to give me free leads and who's going to give me $100,000 salary? You know what I mean? And so that's the mindset of a lot of folks that come in this industry. So I think for that model, it works great. But what a lot of people don't see is like, hey, these agency owners are if they're going to bring you on the team, and look, the real good ones that we know, they're vetting people, right? And why? Because, man, they're getting ready to spend minimum $2,000 a month, $3,000, $4,000. And that is bottom dollar right out of their pocket to invest in you and hope and pray and coach you and support you, and that you're going to get off your butt and work tomorrow morning, that you're going to close business, right? So look, up front, outside looking in, I think a lot of agents coming in, they need to step back and look at that. Like, wow, that model and what this agency owner is getting ready to do is a big investment on his part or her part.
Yeah.
And I need to come in with this with the mindset of like, okay, I have got not only something I need to prove to myself, but I need to prove to this agency that I'm worthy of that investment, right? So, so up front on that side, I see that and I respect the commitment, right? Now that I'm now that I'm building a team and I'm on that side of it, it's wow. A lot of respect for those folks. Now, for an agency, you know, for an agent, I mean, I think sometimes what you don't know, like ignorance is bliss in a way, right? Like if
Right.
I didn't know coming in, like when people were saying like, or you would see YouTube videos and people were just like spouting out like, oh, come join us, 100% commission rates, 50% commission rates, 150% commission rates. I don't know what the heck that meant, right? Like, what are you talking about 100% commission rates? Like, what do you mean? And so if had I not really given that attention, that because I almost made a fatal mistake getting into the industry and joining somebody that was their main
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That was their main pitch was like 100, we'll give you over 100% starting out. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And I've been in sales my whole life. Like, I don't get it. What does this whole percentage rate mean?
Well, and it's interesting, right? Like, I think it'd be good for folks out there, like shed some light on that process that really, literally you and I went through when you came into the business, and where you had come to me, you had already kind of spoken to somebody, this person that you're mentioning. And so just shed some light on that, because I think that's a really powerful story for new agents that, man, like you come in and you're bombarded with that message, right? High commissions, high payouts, money. But what's really behind that, and what's really the benefit for that agent, and is it the proper structure? So kind of just give people a little breakdown on how you went through that yourself.
No, I mean, it was exactly that, right? It was talking these high rates and just the way it was being spoken of by many people and some big influencers online. It just seemed like this was the way to go. Like they were so just passionate about like nobody else in this industry is offering these high commission rates. You don't have to contract with us. Like, well, you can leave any day one. And come to find out, a lot of that stuff isn't really true, And so, I was hyped up about it. And look, and this is real world. I called you, right? And I'm like, man, like, and I called you with like, to let you know what I was doing.
Right.
Like I wasn't calling you, like, I didn't care what you thought. I was like, nah, man, this guy, he's gonna like, this is the naysayer. Like, do you not see this guy with 1 million followers on YouTube? He's telling me this is the way, No, I'm calling you to say, hey bro, like what you've been doing, man, you're doing a good job. Like, but like, I hate that you got caught up in some lies, bro. Like, cause what you're doing, like I'm getting ready to take over. And
you got to come on the boat with me, man,
Yeah. And then, what I planned was going to be like a 2-minute conversation with you ended up being like a 2-hour conversation. And, and really just sitting down nuts and bolts. And it was those conversations of like, well, throughout that process, Eric, did you like ever think about, how you're going to scale this? Who are you buying leads from? Where are they coming from? How much are you actually spending? What's the close rate on those? How much money do you need to spend to break even? Right? Like, whoa.
Yeah.
All those guys that I've been watching and pumped me up about high commission rates, like nobody talked about any of that. So I don't know what you're talking about. Is that really necessary? Like, I don't even know.
I just know I'll be at 100, 150%.
Yeah, maybe. Like, what do you mean, Oscar? Like, I got 100% commission rate. Like, I don't. Do I need to know how to run a business? I don't know. And so that was where it was like, whoa, time out. Like, man, maybe Oscar actually is doing something right here. Like, he's treating this like it's like a business. And then I sat there and thought, I'm like, why is nobody talking about this being a business? And I'm like, because we're all 1099, we're all working for ourselves, and this is a new world for me, right? So I've been in sales my life, but I've always been in corporate America, slaving for somebody else. And so the jump for me, like I didn't know what I didn't know. So I think what ultimately my point is here is, had I not been marketed to and brainwashed with this high commission rate, had I looked at options where they were offering 50% commission rates or 100, like it doesn't like that. I don't think that doesn't matter. It didn't matter. It didn't really matter at the end of the day, right? Had I not known about this, like it's just a marketing technique that some people are using, right? So if I'm looking at it like logically, and I'm looking at it business wise, and I am, with a W-2 experience, and I'm walking into an agency. I just got licensed, and they're offering me a sales trainer, a coach, leads, CRM, and they're kind of handling all that, so I can just walk in and really focus on selling and ironing my skills. man, that seems like a really great option for me as an agent, right? And so when I get into the business and I start selling and I start meeting other people and I start seeing other options, and then I look at the independent broker model, right? And I'm like, okay, higher commission rates. However, I'm carrying the risk of figuring out leads and where those are going to come from, and I got to make sure that's consistent, and I'm paying a good rate. Fortunately for us, we've got an amazing system. You know what I mean?
Right.
For our team, we're building, and leads is never an issue. We have too many leads. We're bringing people on to help fill those, kind of thing. But that's not the norm. Like, that's not the norm, because when you look in these groups, it's, what am I doing? Like, I've spent thousands of dollars on leads. They're aged, they're shared. I don't know. Like, I'm not getting any success, and part of it is because they can't get enough leads per dollar. They've got zero support. They've got nobody knows. Like, look, I thought I was hella good, man, coming in the industry. Like, man, I've been in sales. Like, shoot, I can sell this. Let's go. And the truth of the matter is, no, this is such a specific sale. One call, one close. You really have to know how to control. You have to nail that discovery. Like, there's really specific training involved in succeeding in this industry, right? So when you look at that independent role, again, knowing what I do now, it's like you're carrying a lot more risk, right? The reward is going to be higher. You're carrying a lot more risk. So you have to really make sure that you're doing your research, that you've got everything set up and lined up. And look, there are great systems out there that already do it for you. And so, it's just coming in. And I think a lot of folks, what I see on that side, on the independent side, is folks just get licensed, jump in, and they get contracted, getting sold a dream. And again, it goes back, because I almost did that, right? And they're jumping in and they're just going out and buying leads, not knowing where they're coming from.
Yeah. I'll give a perspective from the agency side, right? Which you mentioned, right? I think it's important for new agents as they come in and they're weighing out the options of, well, what model is better for me, right? Mm-hmm. And as an agency, the risk that you're taking on by hiring an agent at a lower commission and funding that agent's leads, that's a huge risk that you're taking. And on the agency side, you have to be structured properly and know what you're doing and know what to look out for to be able to do those things successfully, right? And we know, look, there's some agencies out there that are doing that and that are building tremendous teams and really making big moves in this industry. And I think one of the messages that you hear out there, and big shout out to Dana Neeson that we both are huge fans of and follow, and gosh, their group, like, she talks about this a lot, right? That is 100%, like, what's 100% of nothing? You know what I mean? Like, if you don't have a structure, if you don't have leads, if you don't have training, 100% is just a number, right? And more often than not, agents are in better positions, especially newer agents that are just coming into the business, that are just learning, that need the support, that don't understand how to properly scale and be consistent in this business. I think it's a great structure for those folks, and they end up making more in a 50% structure than having 100% contract or 120% contract, and then sitting in front of their desk, twiddling their thumbs, trying to figure out, well, great, now you have this shiny contract that's paying you 110, 120%. Now what, right? Now what do you do? And if you can't have the support and the system, the guidance that plugs you in to monetize that contract, right? Because the contract is just a piece of paper. Like, how are you actually monetizing the contract and actually bringing in the money and the conversions to then collect that high percentage, right? And so from an agency standpoint, look, and we started in that model, right? I think that's and right now we kind of offer that to starting agents, because it is a balance, right? When you come into this business, and I think, like, you're a perfect example, right? You were a top 2% corporate sales closer, right? I mean, and not to toot your horn, but toot toot, right? Let's toot this thing, like, man, I've known you for many years. And,
Mhm.
I remember you bringing me to this HBO, private party down in South Beach. And I
Oh yeah,
remember walking into this thing and being like, wow, man, this is a
yeah.
spread, right? They had, actual actors from the show. What was the show
Game of
we were,
Thrones.
the Game of Thrones, man. I'll
Yeah,
never forget that party, right?
that was
Like,
awesome.
and you were like top 2%
Mhm.
sales for HBO in the country, right? So like, the knowledge and the sales experience that you have is tremendous, right? But yeah, we came into this thing and we had that conversation of like, well, is 100% structure really the right thing for you, because you're coming from a corporate world where you walk in and everything is provided for you in the form of leads, structure, setup, everything.
Mhm.
And now you're about to walk into something where none of that is provided, and all you're going to have is a piece of paper that says that you can make 100% on a deal. And
Mhm.
after having that long conversation that we had, we understood that it was much more beneficial for you ramping up to be able to say, hey, let me come in, learn this business, not have to worry about leads and expenses and all these other things. And I was willing to take that risk with you because I knew your level of success. I know what you're capable of doing. I knew that it was just a matter of time before you turn the corner and you were off to the races, right? So I was willing to take on that risk and
Mhm.
then really become partners in this thing and help you get to a place. And I think even in that conversation, I said to you, look, the idea here is for you not to be on a 50% contract forever, right? The
Mhm.
idea is to get you to a place where you have consistent money coming in, right? And you have your footing on the business. And then we can have the conversation, hey, look, I'm ready to take on the ad spend myself.
Yeah.
Let's get me to a higher percentage, right? And not everybody's going to get that offer, right? Let's be clear about that, right? And this, for you and I, it's a little different because again, we went into this thing understanding that, hey, our goal is to be partners and to take over this business together, right? And so
Mhm.
for me as an owner, it was just important to get you to a place where you were making money and then be able to put you in a place where you can be more successful and we can grow together, right? But as a new agent going into that structure, there is so much benefit for you to, again, not have to worry about where are leads coming from? How are we generating them? Are they compliant? Are they exclusive? Are they being stepped on? What's my cost per acquisition on this? What's my chargeback rate going to be on these things?
Mhm.
Who's going to be listening to my calls or even doing takeovers on live calls to help me listen and see how to properly sell? Those are all things that are so real. And so on the other side of it, right, just to touch a little bit on that, like, I think that there's a place and I think there's a structure for everybody, right? I think
Mhm.
that there's some folks that 50% structure is going to be a home run initially and long term, right? Because there are people out there that are like, man, I don't want to deal with any of that stuff. I just want to make X amount of money and follow a direction and follow a system and go. And
Yeah.
that's a great system for you. There's other folks that come into the business and see that after being in those structures for a little while, they might be capped, right? They might be in a position where they say, well, gosh, how can I excel? How can I get to the next level? And we go back to the same thing, right? We're all 1099 employees. We're all running our own businesses here. And so it's just human nature and the normal process of things for some of us to get to a point where we go, okay, now what? Right? I've now I'm successful in the structure. Can I continue to grow within this structure? Can I build an actual business that's mine within this structure? And some agencies will offer that, and some won't, right? Within that 50% model. And so I think some people will get to a point within that model where they go, hey, you know what? I think I've outgrown this. I think I'm at a place where I'm willing to take on the risk that agency has taken on for me for
Mhm.
X amount of time. And
Yeah.
I'm now really at a place where I understand this business. I understand how to make the money. I'm understanding the leads, or at least I want to start getting to that place, and I'm ready to take on that risk, right? Which is what business ownership is all about, is understanding the amount of risk that you can take on individually, and hopefully gradually being able to push and push, and as you grow, being able to take more risk, and that risk not having an emotional effect on you, and understanding that it's just business, right? It's just, how can I grow? How can I get better? And so I think for new agents, those are the things that you got to really look at. As a veteran, right? And I see it every day, right? I talk to agents that have been in this business for 2-3 years and are swapping from one to the other, right? Some are saying, hey, I'm done with spending $10,000-$15,000 a month in ad spend and always focusing and trying to figure that out. I'm going to go try my luck here, right? And these are top producers, people that are making big money and are getting to those places and want to explore a different model. And then on the flip side, there's people that have been in the 50% model and are like, man, I'm making great money, but I think I'm ready to branch out, right? I think I'm ready to again, take on the risk of generating my own leads. I'm ready to do these other things and grow my business. And so, the message I think here for me, and I think you agree, it's every structure can help somebody in their journey, right? And not one is better than the other. The most important thing that you can do is just understand truly both sides of it, right? Because, and we talked about this, I think, on the last episode, right? Like, man, it drives me nuts that is what some companies are leveraging to get somebody to come into the door, right? And to recruit that person. It's like, hey, here's this shiny piece of paper. Here's 100, 150%, 100, whatever the number is. Here, come on in and you're good. There's nothing else that you need to do. And I think as humans going into a new business, and you mentioned this, right? Like, if you've been doing sales and you've been in independent contractor in other industries and you come in, you're not as easily sold by that. But if you know nothing about this and you come into this, what could be more powerful than seeing someone say, hey, I'm going to pay you 100% of every dollar that comes in on a commission, right? Like, that's almost like a blinder, right? Like deer in the headlights. It's hitting some of these agents in the face and they go, whoa, I need that, right? There's like what you said, right? Like, man, I was going to get on a call with Oscar to tell him, like, man, what a loser you are, bro. Like, why aren't you doing this, And it's like, and that's real, man. I think people see that and they go, oh, there is nothing better than this. And then they go into the structure and they're twiddling their thumbs, calling their uplines and trying to figure out how the hell they're actually going to monetize the contract. And gosh, what's the answer, right? Like, go buy more leads, right? And you made an awesome post about this, I think, a couple days ago. That just, like, it was super funny. It hit home with people of like an upline taking calls from agents, like, what do I do? Where am I at? And the upline just saying, like, hey, just go buy more leads, right? Like, there is no other solution here. Just go buy more leads, So, so I think those are my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, and and it's interesting. So, like, with that said, too, and again, this is why I think I'm so, I'm so pro. Like, that's why there's not one perfect solution for everybody, right? So you look at you look at everything that we just laid out, and you can take a lot of that, and then for me, like, in my personal decision as well, and in everything that we've done in the past over the years too, for me, in my corporate experience and background in that world, one of my biggest fears is being an employee. Okay.
Right.
So if I'm going into a model where I really don't have ownership, leverage over myself, right? So if I'm coming in and you're providing the leads, you're providing the solutions and the systems, it's close to corporate America for me again. And look, and I built a life where I have been screwed over by so many people, right? And now, and that's part of the give and take in that model, right? Like, you're giving up some of your leverage because you're not an independent broker. You're coming into an agency and and whether you're captive completely or not, you're ultimately going to be captive, right? And so for me, getting into this industry, it was an opportunity for me to finally build something for myself. And man, I'm going to risk it for the biscuit. We're either going to the penthouse or I'm going to the bridge under the highway, you know? And
right. Yeah.
So for me, that takes a lot of the logic maybe out of the equation, right? So we can go and think critically, we can think, and it's like, and maybe that captive place, maybe they were offering me 50% higher. Maybe they were offering me 100%, right? However, for me, the ability to own, and I could go to sleep tonight and wake up tomorrow and know, hey, I'm not going to fire myself, right? Hey, I'm gonna spend money. Leads come back. We're generating them on our own. Like for me, that washed out a lot of that other logic. You know what I mean? So that's why it's like,
Sure.
You can't tell me what option is better for me, right? Like, because for me, it's what's most important to me, right? And so
Correct.
that's going to trump a lot of logic in some cases.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's like, look, for people coming in, maybe you are like me and you've been burned by so many working for other people in sales and and commission structures and bonuses being ripped from you. And maybe you're like, you know what? If the best model for me puts me in a place where I am on my own and this is my business, that's where I want to be. And I'll take a pay cut. I'll pay more for this or that, right? So that for me, and then you put on top, I trust you, right? Like, man, Oscar's not, I trust this guy, right? So look, you could be offering me 25% commission. But man, look, what's most important to me is I'm partnering with somebody who I trust, right? And then I own this. I'm not handcuffed to someone else's company. So for me, that was big. And that's why, again, I think for people need to see both sides of this equation, right? Because somebody may be like me and like, look, man, I want to work with you because I trust you and I know you've got the solution and I'm working for myself and I don't want you calling me tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. seeing if I'm out of bed. I'm going to do this on my own. And for me, and I think that's another good point, like for me and the way that I work and that I sell is, man, I work the best when I'm not being micromanaged and someone's not on top of me or like even, honey, take out the trash. No, look, I'm going to take out the trash on my own will and I'm going to do it. But if you tell me to do it, I'm not going to do it. You know what I mean? Like, if you tell me to take out the trash, I'm never going to do it. Take the clothes out of the dryer. No, they're going to sit there. But if you don't tell me, I'm going to do it, right? Like I'm going to do it. So for me, it's like, man, if I'm in my own world and it's like, I get it. I can look at myself in the mirror. I got the motivation, the drive. I can do that. So that's why the independent model worked great for me. And that may be somebody else, but that's why, look, man, there's not one good solution for everybody.
Yeah. And I think this is another important part about this, right? That I think we got to touch on, right? Like, so, and again, thinking about the newer agent that's kind of sitting there trying to figure out what's best for them. At the end of the day, I think as a new agent, simplicity is what's best for you, right? Like, and so whatever you're going to choose to do, you have to commit, right? You have to commit. If you're going to go into a 50% model, that's great. Go kill that model, right? Like go in with everything that you have and give this thing more energy and more focus than you've ever given anything in your life, right? Because if you do that, you're going to be successful in any model that you choose, right? That's I think for me, a strong message for everybody out there, because I see it right now on the marketing side of things. I'll have agents that come to me and say, Oscar, I've bought 50 different programs and courses, and I've gone through every CRM in the book, and I've had 7 uplines in 8 months, and man, I just can't find the right one, and this doesn't work, and this doesn't work, and like, man, you have to understand that going into a business, right, which again, you're going into business for yourself, you have to keep things simple, and flip-flopping from one thing to the next every time you blink your eyes is a sure recipe to fail in this business. I see it every single day. Agents that can do this, but get so caught up in all the little pieces that are part of this business, CRMs, workflows, assistants, lead, all these things that are important, but are not the driving force of the business, right? The driving force of any business, and especially in the beginning, is you, right? You are the one that's going to make or break this business, not the CRM, not a workflow, not all these other things. And so whatever you decide to do, 50%, 100%, again, on the 100% side, you have to understand what you're going into, right? You got to know that there's support, that there's trainings, and where the leads are coming from. I think those are for me, the top three things, right? Who the hell's training me? What kind of training are they providing? And then what kind of leads are we working? And what are the numbers behind those leads? And then that can help me make the decision whether or not I'm going to go that route. On the 50% side, it's like, all right, I'm taking this cut, lay out to me what I'm getting in return, right? I'm going to give you 100% of my time and effort. What are you giving me? And that should be same thing, a good structure of training, a good structure and a good system that I can plug into easily. And then the biggest part is the leads. How are these leads being generated? Are they garbage? Are they good? Are they live transfers? Whatever they are. But once you assess these two things, commit, right? Put your money in the pot and you're all in. You can't flip-flop in a month and expect that you're going to understand the results and whether something worked or not. And so I think that's a really big thing for new agents that are out there. Stop focusing on a million different things. Narrow this thing down because, and I always say this in trainings, right? Like the sale is on the other end of the phone, right? And you're the person doing that work, not the CRM, not all these million things that agents focus on. Like it comes down to you picking up a phone and doing the activity over and over and over again and obsessing over doing that activity and you becoming better, right? I'll give you like an example. Like for me, I've never, and look, I'm 42 years old, right? I've been working for myself since I was, I think 19 or 20 is when I really went out on my own. And ever since then, I've never had a boss, right? And I know for a fact that any business that I've had that has been successful started with me just putting in the dedication and the work, building a big cloud of smoke behind me of messed up shit, right? Of things that I need to fix. But I never fixed them first and then went out and made money. I focused on what makes me money in that business, which in this business is getting on the phones or getting face-to-face with people and making sales. And then, right, once I see that actually works, then I went back and cleaned up the cloud of dust that I made and fixed all the issues that I created along the way. And that's the mentality that everybody should have when they go into business, right? Like you can't fix every little detail before you start. You need to start yesterday. You need to be on these phones, hitting it and making changes and making things once you see that this actually works and that it's for you. Because an agent will spend 3 months picking a CRM and then get on the phones and then in a week go, shit, this isn't for me. And then they're gone. Right. And they just wasted all this time trying to perfect the system. And it's just, for me, it's never been like that. And I've ran multi-million-dollar businesses that we started from zero. And man, it was never about getting it perfect and then going. It was just about going, making sure the model actually works, and then turning around and fixing and switching and making changes and creating systems and all that stuff. So just go do it, guys. Like, man, stop flip-flopping. Stop listening to the million things that are out there that are driving you in a million different directions. Yeah. Just assess, get good information, and then pick one and shut it all off, right? Shut off all these other things that are telling you that A, B, C, D, E, F, G are better for you, because you're going to waste time doing all that shit and you're not going to get to the meat, right? To the nuts and bolts of this thing, which comes down to your activity on the phone or your activity going to see people face to face. That's the only way you're going to be successful. So 50%, 100%, man, just educate yourself, pick one and go.
Yeah. And I'll let the people listen to you instead of me, because You've never had a boss. I've always had a boss. I'm speaking to you today from my kitchen, and you have. So we'll let that. We'll go.
It's a
from
beautiful
there.
kitchen, man.
Yeah.
Don't sell yourself short, man. Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at those beautiful stainless steel appliances back
You know, it's also my office. It's my bathroom. We got everything. I do everything from here. This is the way.
It's true. It's truly the reason for your success. You know what I mean? Like, let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah, I don't waste time. I can just get a drink of water. I'm there. I'm good.
Right there. The
Efficiency.
toilet's right there. I mean, literally.
Business. Yeah.
Man, efficiency. You know, that's
That's
really
episode 3. We'll talk about how I'm so efficient.
But no, look, I think it's just real, you know, and I try to give agents that insight. And that's why coming into this, I think that's why we started this podcast, right? Because, man, the way that people are being presented, right, a career in the insurance business, it's just smoke and mirrors for the most part. That's really what's out there. There's no real business management. There's no real business fundamentals behind how we're going to scale, how we're going to structure this. How are we going to get this thing to $1 million a year? And yeah, look, are there people out there that are making millions of dollars? Yes, of course. There are. There's uplines and there's people that are making that money. And if they're promoting themselves, right, to you, and all they're showing you is the money that they made, right? And all they're showing you is their W-2s and their 1099s. Like, man, we could all show $1 million, right? Like, if we've ever made that money, I can show it right here. Here's my 1099 that I made 800 grand this year, whatever it is. Like, that's cool. And that's great for you. But don't fall for that shit, right? Because what did it take for that one individual to get there, right? Like, how many people failed under that model for this one person to get here, right? And that's what those people aren't telling you about, right? It's really, we had this conversation and we're sidetracking a little bit, but we're so like passionate about this because it's truly the reason why you and I are here today on this podcast, right? And the idea that, why is it, and I'll pose this question for everyone that's out there and think about this, right? Why is it that when you see these massively successful uplines in carriers or that have their own agencies and they're talking about making millions and hundreds of thousands, why is it that those folks are not tagging and showcasing their entire team that is being successful supposedly underneath them, right? Why is it that those people are only talking about themselves, right, and the money that they make and how quickly they made it there, right? I think I said to you, like, man, if I'm making $1 million a year, $2 million a year off the back of 400, 500, 800 successful agents, I'm switching my profile page on my Facebook every single day to show my top producers, right? And the credit goes to those people, because without those people, I wouldn't be making $1 million or $2 million, right? I would literally, those people would be, I had pictures of those people next to my bed every night, right? That's how it should be.
Right.
But why is that not the case? Why are we only seeing your success, one person, and you're pitching this 100% commission and 100 and whatever the number is, and come and do it with me, but there's nobody tagged. There's nobody that you're actually like showing like, hey, by the way, I make $1 million. Here's my top 10 downlines that each make X amount of money. And here's their top 3 agents that each make X amount of money. And the reason, guys, it's because for those people that are making money, there's thousands of people, thousands that have failed trying to chase the $1 million, right? Because they weren't fed the proper information. They're just being sold this dream. And so, yeah, that's great that one person made $1 million and that 10 others are making big money. But what does the entire pie look like, right? How many people did it really take for you to get to $1 million? How many people went through their life savings chasing your dream and are now on the street or had to file bankruptcy or now have $20,000-$30,000 in credit card debt because of just buying leads at whatever cost they told them to, right? How many of those folks are there, and did it take for that one person to get to where they are?
Well,
You know,
yeah. I
right?
mean, look, it's like, and do you define, when you look at it, it's like, do we define that as a successful business model? And because look, honestly, let me
That
go
guy
out.
does. Those people do. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Let me do this. If I can put the money out, and I got the funnels, I got everything, and I can hire 500 people next month. Okay. I'm going to hire 500 people next month. If I can convince them somehow, I get them on board, I get them all to sell one policy next month, I'm a millionaire. And guess what? Those 500 people, out of 500 that I hire next month, 499 of them they're out. But guess what? Guess what I'm doing the following month? I'm going to hire 500 more, and I'm going to convince them, and maybe they're going to all sell maybe a deal and a half.
right.
Now I'm a multi-millionaire, and guess what? And now I'm going to go and tell you guys, I'm a millionaire. Why aren't you doing this? And I'm going to keep doing it, and I'm going to keep doing it. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Like you said, I think it's the best thing. We're not going to talk about how many people I went through, destroyed their lives. They're living on credit card debt now. They've got nowhere to go. They're now in our inbox. Like, hey, I tried this. I was sold this dream. I've got no more money. Like, I need leads. What can I do?
Yeah.
And it's that, and that's where I think our goal with the podcast too. And if we can get people early, we talked about this yesterday. Like, how can we get to people before they jump out? And look, we're not calling anybody specifically out or bashing. We just want people to be educated. Like, look, ask these questions when you get in. Ask who's going to support you, who's successful, man. And what a great question. Hey, I noticed that you hired 200 people, 300 people last month. How are those people doing? Can I talk to the top 10? Ooh, well, they're unavailable. They're unavailable. Hey, what's the average that, if you hire 2,000 people, 3,000 people this year, how many people stay on board, right? And that's not necessarily, we see it. That's not necessarily a reflection of that agency, because a lot of people just, they talk to the big game and they come in. However,
sure.
Look, if we're gonna hit us with and let's be real. Some of the smoke and mirrors it's good. I almost bought into it, right? Like that, it's good. But let's ask those questions. And like you said, why? I think when you really start putting on those goggles of like, why aren't these things being talked about? Why aren't we diving deeper? Why aren't we really treating this like a business? Why are we coming in with some, preformed solution that is just going to make you a millionaire overnight, and that's it, and we're rolling with that? That's the conversation, and it's very simple. It's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing.
And it's so crazy, right? And you and I talk about this, right? But like the idea, and you see it out there, right? Like, and again, you just made a post about this, like, just buy more leads, just buy more leads, just buy more leads. $50 a lead, $40 a lead, 30, it doesn't matter, just buy more leads. And I immediately, where that goes to me, because how I've always been in business, or over the years, have become better at understanding business, has been by mimicking and also investing in publicly traded companies, right? Like I'm a big investor, right? I've been for years. I've managed my own portfolios for years. I don't have a manager. I've done it all myself. And I constantly listen to quarterly calls, right, on companies that I invest in.
Yeah.
Because for me, like being in the stock market, like I'm not buying stocks, I'm investing in a business. And so if I'm going to invest in a business through the method of stocks or the stock market, I want to understand the fundamentals of that business and where they're going. And it's so comical to me, right? Because if you jump on a quarterly call for a public company, and if you've never done it, go do it, right? There's applications that you can listen to these quarterly calls that talk about everything, right? Marketing, dollars spent, everything that pertains to that business for the quarter and the coming quarters is spoken about on a quarterly call. And the idea that on a call like this, you're going to have a CFO of a company come in and or a marketing officer of a company come in and say, hey guys, here's how we're going to get to profitability next quarter. We're just going to buy marketing. We're just going to buy leads, and it doesn't matter what the cost is. We're just going to buy more, right? And everybody in that publicly traded company that makes these decisions actually sitting there going, man, that's a home run idea. Like, why haven't we been doing this for 20 years that we've been public, right? Like, that's not how it works, guys, right? Like, that's not real. The idea that you should not have some type of structure and understanding of how to acquire a customer, what it takes to acquire a customer, what is my cost per acquisition on the money that I lay out for leads every single week, every single month. If an upline isn't telling you and talking to you about these numbers, what are their real business principles, right? Like, what are their business fundamentals that they follow to really build a successful business, right? And so I always relate it to everything I do in business. I relate it to a publicly traded company because it's just a roadmap for me to say, okay, man, if a company doing billions of dollars a quarter, if this is what they do, why the hell should I not be doing the same exact thing running my own little business, right? Like, it just makes perfect sense. But people get lost, again, in the smoke and mirrors that, no, all you need to worry about is a contract and then just buy. So, look, just to bring it back to where we were before, which was the conversation of, low splits to high splits. It just comes down to educate yourself, right? Cut through the shit that's out there. Find someone that's giving you real information, right? Find someone that really is providing an unbiased opinion. Ask questions, right? And if you're not getting the answers that you want to hear, or that you think should be coming, then move on, right? Don't get swept up by the shit that people are trying to sell you out there. Move on and go find somebody that is being truthful, that is being transparent with you, that's going to tell you, hey, you're going to start here, but you're going to fall flat on your face X amount of times before we get you to success. That is just how it's going to work. It doesn't matter what you start, where you are, how much you know, right? Anything I've ever came into in insurance, like, man, it took me months to really figure out a system. It took me months of failing, right? Nobody taught me how to sell final expense. I took it upon myself to figure it out. And I failed miserably in the beginning, right? Like, man, I was getting hung up on. I was getting no after no after no. And it was only through picking myself up, dusting off my face, and then just doing it again and doing it again and doing it again that I was able to get to where I am right now. And the same thing goes for you, right? Like, man, in the beginning, it was like, shit, you're falling flat on your face right now, right? And this is what you should have done. And you did have my support there, but like, you just got to do the activity in whatever you pick.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think, and I didn't comment on it before, but when you mentioned, and it is mind blowing when you see how many folks will get hung up on the details, and they'll get hung up on that CRM, they'll get hung up on that. And by the time after 6 months, they figured out what system they want to get into, they're like, they make their first phone call their first day. And, they're like, hey, Eric, I made 20 calls today and nobody picked up. And I'm like, well, I made 200. And like, right. You know what I mean? And like, this is what we need. Like, I know you spent 6 months shopping for that perfect phone number that you want to dial from, you know what I mean? But now this is the nuts and bolts, right? So there's a huge element of that, you need to become proficient at this game. Like, all of this up front is the minor details, right? And then I think when you get that, you put those blinders on. Like, now when I go into a group, somebody's talking about some new CRM, skin, this and that. I'm like, I can't even read that. Like, I'm not, that is noise. I need to block that noise out. I am on a mission. I have phone numbers to dial. I am dialing them. I've got a solution. And you know what? And I picked it because I believe it's the best solution. It works. It's the details. And let's go. I'm not talking about, I'm not like, and I get this too. It's like, man, I'm looking at 19 different scripts to use. Like, I don't know which one to use. I'm changing it. Like, no, guys, like, come on. Like, you need to pick one, roll with it. You know what? And then if you're falling flat on your face over and over and over and over, maybe you need to change a little bit. But look, let's not, like, for the first 3 months, don't change everything or contemplate and question. Like, man, if you got to be out doing the volume. And then that's when people are going to listen to you as well. Hey, I made 1,000 calls this week. This is the amount of presentations I had. Okay, well, let's go through that. Like, something's missing. You got to, okay, looks like you got enough leads. You put the activity out there. Now let's listen to some of your calls, right?
Right.
But look, I'm not going to get there, or I'm not going to, like, if you made 100 calls this week, I don't even care to listen to your calls. I don't care to listen to your script. I don't care about the CRM you're using. I don't care about anything, because you're not even just doing the activity. Nothing else matters, right?
Correct.
And so, but what is the biggest issue that we find with agents? They don't do the activity. Like, I rarely meet an agent who's like, they're putting all the activity out there, and they've got an issue with their CRM or their automation. You know what I mean? Like, it's the activity. Like, it's wild. If that's the biggest success factor in this whole thing. And so that's probably the biggest limiting factor with all new agents.
Well, by the way, right, just like that's interesting, right? Because like I had a call yesterday with an agent that's coming on board on the marketing side, right? Yeah. And this guy's doing 20,000, 15,000 a week right now.
Wow.
Off of a Google spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Off of a Google spreadsheet, right? Listen to that, guys. There's no CRM. There is no automations. There's nothing. This guy is using a cell phone and a Google sheet to make literally $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month take home.
Yeah.
And now he's at a place where it's like, hey, you know what? Maybe I should think about like implementing some shit, because I'm on a spreadsheet, right? But it's so real, guys. Activity is the only thing that's going to make you successful. Nothing else, right? All these other things are secondary. Understanding that, like, is every CRM perfect? Hell no, right? Is every workflow perfect? No, right? Even AI, ChatGPT, all these things that are rolling out, like, are they going to be perfect? No, the hell no, they're not. Nothing is perfect. Nothing in business is perfect. There is not one golden ticket to do anything in the business world. You are constantly making shifts, changes, and reworking things as you see things work and as you progress and as you succeed. And so the idea that you have to get things perfect before you start, you got to do away with that mindset. You have to focus on just the activity. Get yourself to a place where you can, because you're so right? For me, an agent comes to me and says, hey, this isn't working, and I don't know what to do. And then we look at a CRM and it's like, yeah, well, you made 80 calls this week. You're not even playing the game, right? I can't even give you feedback because you're not playing the numbers in this system, right? And so I'm not wasting my time on you if you're not even going to waste the time on yourself.
Okay.
Right?
Woo! I don't know what happened there, but a little technical difficulty. Now
you get arrested.
Now I'm inside. So, look, I think the thought was just sticking to something and just get into it and work your ass off, no matter what structure you end up wanting to be in and deciding is best for you. Get educated on your options, pick one, and put in more effort into it than you've ever put into anything in your life. And I think that's going to guarantee that you are set up in a position to succeed. I think those are my last thoughts on everything. What are your last thoughts on this subject?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're a new agent, you have to be in our Facebook group. That's number one. Like you're going to fail if you don't. So, Dirty Secrets of Insurance Business. You can definitely join there. And we're going to, we just talked about this morning, like we want to bring in some other agents too who've even been through stuff. Like let's talk about it, bring you on the podcast here, and let's just, like, I think that's so important. The more that people can hear other stories and real world stories, and I try to share with permission some of the DMs that I get from folks too on my stories, so people can see, like, look, we're not blowing smoke, and there are agents that have been through the ringer, and they really they wish they had content like this to look at. So that's why I think we're so amped about this. But yeah, look, at the end of the day, you have to look in the mirror and you have to ask yourself what's more important, or what's most important to you, right? Is it the security of having a team and having people that are going to invest into you, or does it mean more to just completely break free from any chains, know that this is going to be yours, and you've got the freedom to do and operate and a brand. And that's one thing I didn't mention too that was really important to me. You know, I wanted to be able to have my own brand. And, you know, and we talk about this on the podcast too, of like, I can say the things now, and maybe I might be an anomaly because I like to push the edge on what's acceptable and what's not.
You are an anomaly, brother.
But,
you're a supernova, man. You are a supernova, brother, man. I love it.
But
man.
there's like things I couldn't say if I was captive, right? Like if
right. Yeah.
And so, and I mean, we couldn't do this podcast if we were captive, probably. Like, I mean,
we couldn't. No,
like,
we would not be able to.
Definitely.
We certainly would be fired, and we've already been fired.
I mean, a lot of value in that, though.
Yeah, I think having the voice, right, and being able to speak out is huge. And we'll talk about branding, I think, and I think that's a great subject to have on one of our episodes is like branding and how do we build organic traffic, right? So that'll be something that we talk about. Look, guys, you know, it's been a great episode. If this is bringing you guys value as you're watching it, as you're listening to this, go subscribe, right, to our YouTube channel, Dirty Secrets Insurance Business, the group on Facebook, Dirty Secrets of Insurance Business. You can follow Eric at The Policy Dude on all social media. Go check him out. It's funny content. It's really it'll make you laugh, and then it'll make you cry if you're actually going through some of the struggles that he talks about, right? But all in all, it's super informative. Great guy to go follow on social media. Me, I'm nowhere near as funny as Eric or creative. I'm just informative, right? So if you want to follow me, I'm on all social handles, My Insurance Aid, and I just give educational info, right? I don't have the creative side that Eric has, but I do give some good information out there that helps. So like it, share it, and follow us, guys. And I promise you, we will give you unbiased opinions of this business and try to help you any way that we can.
Yeah, right on. Love it. Alrighty, man. Well, until next time.
Till next time, next week.
All right. See ya.